My name's Margaret Cole. I'm 61 years old, and I used to believe that the best legacy a parent could leave their child wasn't money. It was opportunity. That belief cost me everything. For 35 years, I worked at Turner and Vail Consulting, a mid-sized firm based in Chicago. I started there as a junior HR clerk when I was 25, and by the time I was 55, I was sitting in the director's office. My job wasn't glamorous, but I was good at it. Painfully good. I had a reputation for precision, fairness, and knowing exactly when someone was lying during an interview. My daughter, Claire, grew up in that same office. She'd stop by after school, sit in the break room doing her homework while I reviewed payroll reports. When she graduated college, I got her an internship, not because she was my daughter, but because she'd earned her degree with honors in business administration. I thought I was helping her build a future. I didn't realize I was training my own replacement. By 2020, Turner and Vail was valued at roughly $180 million. We had 5 major clients, 3 satellite offices, and over 400 employees. My role wasn't just HR anymore. I handled executive contracts, oversaw ethics investigations, even advised the board on internal promotions. I knew everyone's salaries, every severance clause, and every dirty secret buried in the corporate archives. Then came the merger. Vail and Associates, a rival firm, offered a strategic partnership. It was supposed to bring in $20 million in new capital and a massive expansion into the West Coast market. I supported it. After all, growth meant job security for hundreds of our employees. But mergers have a funny way of showing you who people really are. Within 6 months, the new board decided to restructure leadership. That word, restructure, sounds clinical, harmless, almost logical. What it really means is betrayal, dressed in a suit. The Friday it happened, I was reviewing quarterly reports when Claire walked into my office, her expression unreadable. She wasn't in her usual casual outfit. She was in a tailored gray pantsuit, the kind executives wear when they're about to ruin someone's life. "Mom," she started, her tone rehearsed. "There's something we need to discuss." "The board met this morning?" I smiled, completely unaware. "Oh, did they finally approve the wellness initiative?" She looked down at the papers in her hand. "No. They've decided to eliminate the HR director role, effective immediately." For a moment, I didn't process it. My brain tried to interpret her words in a way that made sense. Eliminate? Not transfer? Not retire early? I laughed, a small, nervous sound. "Claire, this isn't funny." "It's not," she said quietly. "They've created a new position, Chief People Officer. It'll merge HR and talent strategy. I've been asked to fill it." It hit me like a punch. My daughter, my own blood, taking my seat. "Claire, you mean I'm your replacement," she said softly. "It's nothing personal, Mom. It's just business." That last word, business, shattered me. I had said those exact words 1,000 times in my career, justifying layoffs and restructures. But hearing them from her felt like betrayal in its purest form. "I built this department," I whispered. "You learned everything you know from me." "And I'm grateful," she said. "Truly." "But the board thinks the company needs new energy. A modern perspective." I looked around my office, the photos of her as a kid, the awards I'd earned, the files I'd kept perfectly organized for decades. It all felt suddenly foreign, like it already belonged to someone else. Security came. 10 minutes later, a polite man I'd once hired myself. He avoided my eyes as he handed me the standard exit packet and waited for me to clear my desk. As I walked out of Turner and Vail for the last time, Claire didn't follow me to the elevator. She just said, "I'll call you later, okay?" She never did. That night, I sat in my small kitchen staring at the severance check. $62,500 after taxes. 35 years of loyalty reduced to a single sheet of paper. I could afford it. Filed a complaint. Maybe even sued. But instead, I poured myself a glass of wine and said 6 words out loud. She has no idea who I am. Because what Claire didn't know, what no one at that company knew, was that I wasn't just an HR director. I was a strategist, a reader of people, a woman who spent 3 decades studying every way power changes hands. And now, for the first time in my life, I wasn't protecting anyone. I was planning. The first week after I was fired, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just observed. People assumed I'd fade quietly into retirement, spend my severance on cruises and gardening. They didn't realize I had something stronger than bitterness. Information. For 35 years, I'd been the gatekeeper of Turner and Vail's inner workings. Salaries, vendor contracts, off-book consulting fees, even quiet payouts to executives who resigned voluntarily. I knew the cracks in the company better than the new board ever would. So, instead of mourning, I started calculating. My severance check was $62,500. Not enough to fight a corporate machine, but enough to seed something small. I sold my second car, cashed out an old mutual fund, and pulled $110,000 from my 401k. That gave me a war chest of roughly $172,500. Most people wouldn't risk their retirement to play chess against their own child. But most people don't understand what betrayal does to you. I rented a small co-working office downtown, Suite 504, under the name Cole Strategies, LLC. Just a consulting firm, nothing special. Through a broker I'd once helped hire for Turner and Vail, I began buying small parcels of stock. Not in Turner and Vail directly, that would be too obvious, but in their parent company, Vail Corporate Holdings. Here's the thing no one realizes about mergers. Ownership gets messy. Shares get redistributed across dozens of shell companies and investment vehicles. I knew where the bodies were buried and which accounts held silent influence, which funds were tied to whom. By the end of 2021, I controlled 0.8% of Vail Holdings, small enough to be invisible, large enough to get me access to quarterly investor reports. Then I noticed something alarming and delicious. In quarter 4, Turner and Vail reported $6.2 million in operational losses, but their internal reports showed the real number was closer to $2.8 million. The rest? Executive bonuses and strategic rebranding expenses. Translation: Claire and her shiny new team were bleeding the company dry trying to impress shareholders. They just spent a $1.4 million on a culture transformation campaign, new office furniture, rebranded logos, and a 12-part workplace harmony video series. The irony was painful. The firm that once prided itself on loyalty was now paying consultants to teach empathy. I knew it wouldn't last, and I knew exactly how to speed up the fall. Using my insider knowledge carefully, legally, I started quietly advising 3 former Turner and Vail clients who'd left after the merger. They'd always liked me. They didn't like the new management's arrogance. Within 6 months, those clients had pulled $12 million worth of contracts from Turner and Vail. Claire had no idea I was behind it. She sent me a text once, 6 months after firing me. Greater than star. Mom, I hope you're doing okay. Things have been crazy here. The board's on edge, but I'm managing. Love you. I didn't reply. By early 2022, Vail Holdings' share price had dropped from fiat, $142 per share to $98. That's a 31% loss in market confidence. Analysts blamed leadership transitions. I called it poetic balance. That's when I made my move. I met with a lawyer, an old contact named Harriet Lowe, who specialized in corporate acquisitions. I explained my plan. Greater than I want to acquire controlling interest in Turner and Vail, but I don't want my name attached. I want a clean holding structure that go multiple layers deep. She leaned back and smiled. So, you want to buy your daughter's company? Through a mirror? Exactly. We created Echelon Partners, a Delaware-based private equity firm. On paper, it was owned by a trust, the MC Holdings Trust, registered in the Cayman Islands. No one could trace it back to me without serious forensic accounting. In March 2022, through Echelon, I began buying up shares aggressively, mostly from disillusioned mid-level investors tired of the stock's decline. By September, Echelon owned 17.6% of Vail Holdings, enough to get board attention, enough to call meetings. But the final stroke came unexpectedly. Turner and Vail's biggest private investor, Linden Capital, which held 21% of the company, wanted out. They were tired of the instability, tired of the leadership drama. They needed liquidity before year end. Their asking price, $54 million. Harriet looked at me like I'd lost my mind when I said buy it. Margaret, she warned, that's your entire liquid net worth. You'll be over-leveraged. I'm not buying a company, I said quietly. I'm buying a message. I liquidated almost everything. My retirement accounts, my house in Oak Park, even my art collection. I sold a painting for $62,000 that my late husband had loved. It hurt. But pain has a purpose when you turn it into precision. By the time the deal closed in December 2022, Echelon Partners controlled 39% of Vail Holdings. Enough to appoint new board members, enough to demand a leadership review, enough to summon my daughter into a meeting she didn't know I was sitting behind. And that's, as they say, was when the game truly began. If you're watching this right now, tell me in the comments, would you forgive a betrayal like that, or would you play the long game and make them see what they destroyed? I'll tell you what I chose in the next part. It was January 6th, 2023, the day everything came full circle. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. sharp, inside the executive conference room on the 42nd floor of Vail Holdings' downtown Chicago headquarters, the same room where, a year earlier, my daughter had looked me in the eye and said, "Mom, this isn't personal, it's business." Back then, I left that room in silence. Today, I returned as the majority shareholder. Harriet had set everything up perfectly. The official agenda read, "Emergency leadership review and ownership transition." No names, no hints, just a quiet bomb waiting to detonate. I arrived early, wearing a charcoal suit, not the soft beige tones I used to wear when I worked under them, but something sharper, colder, power-colored. I watched the city skyline through the glass, sipping my black coffee. The taste was bitter, but it matched the morning. One by one, the executives trickled in. People I'd trained, mentored, and watched climb. Some smiled politely, some avoided eye contact. They didn't know who I was representing. Then came Claire, my daughter. She walked in, heels clicking, posture flawless, phone in hand. She didn't notice me at first, not really. Just another stakeholder representative, she probably thought. Then she looked up. Her face froze. For a split second, her confident smile flickered. "Mom?" she said quietly, her voice barely audible. I didn't answer. I just turned a page in my folder, pretending to review notes. At 9:02, the meeting began. Chairman McAllister, a stiff old man with silver hair and a permanent look of confusion, opened with his usual drawl. "Ladies and gentlemen, as you're aware, the primary shareholder of Vale Holdings has requested an emergency session to address the company's declining fiscal performance." He cleared his throat, flipping through papers he clearly didn't understand. "Greater than, and to discuss the appointment of a new interim CEO." Claire straightened in her seat. "Excuse me," she said firmly. "As CEO, I should have been consulted about this before it reached the board." McAllister sighed. "Miss Turner, the majority shareholder—" She cut him off. "I am the CEO, and unless this majority shareholder has a time machine, no one can overrule my position without my consent." That's when I finally looked up. "You might want to check the ownership ledger before saying that," I said, calm but sharp. Her head snapped toward me. "What are you talking about?" I slid a single paper across the table. Harriet's legal magic, signed, sealed, notarized. Effective December 21st, Echelon Partners acquired controlling interest of 39.04% of Vale Holdings. As of this morning, that entity has nominated a new executive board. Her eyes scanned the document. The blood drained from her face. Echelon Partners. That's... She stopped mid-sentence, eyes darting back to me. "You?" I gave a slow nod. "Congratulations, sweetheart. You just fired your own boss." The room went dead silent. McAllister stuttered something about procedure, but nobody heard him. Claire's lips parted like she wanted to speak, but no words came. Her hand trembled slightly, just enough for me to notice. "You played me," she whispered finally. "No," I said softly. "You played yourself. I warned you, Claire. When you treat people as disposable, you forget that loyalty cuts both ways." The legal counsel cleared his throat. "Mrs. Ms. Cole, as of this filing, the board recognizes your authority to nominate a replacement CEO." I nodded slowly. "Then I nominate myself. Interim, effective immediately." A murmur rippled across the room. A few executives, the older ones who'd known me for years who couldn't hide their smirks. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Claire's composure shattered. "You can't do this," she snapped. "This company is mine. I built it. I stood." "No, Claire. We built it. You just forgot who helped you get here." She slammed her folder shut, her voice breaking. "You wanted to humiliate me." I took a step closer. "I wanted to teach you. You fired me like I was some obsolete piece of furniture. You didn't ask for advice. You didn't want wisdom, just control. Now you get to learn what real leadership costs." The meeting adjourned in chaos. Claire stormed out, leaving behind her designer pin and the pride that used to shield her. As I gathered my things, McAllister leaned toward me and said quietly, "You've just pulled off one of the cleanest takeovers I've ever seen." I smiled faintly. It wasn't a takeover, I said. It was a correction. Outside, the winter wind whipped through the city streets carrying flakes of snow that glistened like glass under the sunlight. I stood on the sidewalk closing my coat, watching my own reflection in the building's mirrored glass. For the first time in a long time, I didn't see a fired employee. I saw a woman who'd rebuilt herself, one calculated move at a time. But the hardest part wasn't over yet, because revenge, even when justified, doesn't always heal what it breaks. And as much as I wanted to believe I'd won, a part of me still missed the daughter who used to call me Mom instead of Ma'am. If you're still watching, tell me in the comments, is justice worth it if love doesn't survive the lesson? 3 months after that boardroom reckoning, the building looked different to me. Not physically. Same glass walls, same polished marble floors. But the air had changed. It carried whispers instead of laughter, distance instead of teamwork. And the truth was, I had changed too. Every morning, I sat in the same office my daughter once occupied, her name still faintly visible on the frosted glass where the plaque had been removed. Claire Turner, CEO. Now it said M. Cole, interim. I didn't rush to replace her. She'd resigned formally a week after the meeting. No confrontation, no apology, just an email with one line, greater than, I guess you finally taught me your last lesson. I stared at that message for hours. I could have replied. I didn't. Running the company again should have felt like victory. Poetic justice after humiliation. But instead, it felt empty. The silence of her absence was louder than the applause I got in boardrooms. Still, business didn't wait for emotions. Under my leadership, Vail Holdings stabilized within 8 weeks. Profits rose by 12%. Employee retention improved. We reinstated programs Claire had cut. Maternity benefits, senior support funds, wellness stipends. Everyone called it a new era. But behind every smile was a question. Was it worth it? Then one cold Friday morning, Harriet buzzed in. There's someone here to see you. I didn't look up. Tell them to book an appointment. A pause. Then softly, it's Claire. My pen froze mid-signature. 100 different emotions warred inside me. Anger, guilt, fear, love. Send her in, I said quietly. The door opened, and there she was. She looked smaller somehow, not in stature, in spirit. The confident CEO who once fired her mother now stood in a beige coat, clutching a manila envelope like it weighed 1,000 pounds. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The hum of the city below filled the silence. Mom, she finally said, not Margaret, not Ma'am, just Mom. That one word undid months of armor. I didn't come to fight, she said softly. I came to understand. I gestured for her to sit. She didn't. She stayed standing near the edge of the desk, eyes glistening. I thought you wanted to destroy me, she continued. I told everyone that. I told myself that. But then I started thinking about all those late nights when you stayed after work, teaching me payroll systems and negotiation strategies, about how you never once asked for credit, even when people called me the youngest female CEO in the Midwest, because you wanted me to shine. She exhaled shakily. I used to think your toughness was control. Now I know it was love. My throat tightened. I hadn't expected this version of her, vulnerable, honest, real. I stood, walked around the desk, and placed a hand on her shoulder. You're my daughter, I said. I never wanted to destroy you. I wanted you to see what power without empathy does to people. She nodded, tears threatening to spill. I do now. She handed me the manila envelope. These are my shares. I don't want them. I don't deserve them. I shook my head. No, you built part of this company with your vision. You earned that. Keep it, but... I stopped her with a small smile. Claire, I never wanted your failure. I wanted your understanding. That's the real inheritance. And then she did something she hadn't done since she was 16. She hugged me. Not a polite, hesitant hug. A desperate, trembling one. The kind that says, I finally get it. We stood there like that for a long time. Two women who had both mistaken pride for power and finally learned what strength really meant. When she left, the office felt different, warmer somehow. Later that evening, I took the elevator down alone and walked past the reception desk. The night janitor, old Carlos, looked up and said, Miss Cole, you look lighter tonight. I smiled, maybe because I finally put something heavy down. Outside, the city lights shimmered against the cold glass towers. My reflection stared back, older, wiser, and finally at peace. I had gotten the last laugh, yes, but I'd also gotten something far rarer, reconciliation, because sometimes revenge gives closure. But forgiveness, that gives you your soul back. If you're still watching this, tell me in the comments. Would you take revenge on the one who betrayed you? Or would you wait until they learned the truth on their own? And if this story hit home, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Because here, on The Last Laugh, we don't just tell stories of revenge. We tell stories of redemption.